If you all could read my lips, you know what I'm saying. And that is welcome to another edition of Win TV. I'm your host, Denise Rolark Barnes. And thank you for joining us today. We hope you've had a chance to pick up a copy of this week's Washington Informer. You know, I always like to show the edition to show that it's real. It's really in print, you all. And you know what? We are revising our distribution list. So if you are out there and you keep hearing me say pick up a copy of the Informer, you can go to our website where you can read the digital edition online, but you can also find a location near you to pick up a copy of the Washington Informer. And if there's no place near you and you want to pick up edition of the Informer, email us at news at washingtoninformer.com and tell us, you know, there's a deli, there's a gas station, there's a hair salon, there's some place that says we will take the Washington Informer and we will have it delivered there. You know, since COVID, we had to reduce our delivery locations and, you know, some places went out of business. And so we're ramping that back up again. And so we want to make sure that it's convenient for you to pick up a copy. It's free. My dad hated that word. He said, don't call it free, Denise, just call it complimentary. So we have complimentary copies for you at all the locations you can find online, as well as any new locations that you think we should serve in your community, meaning in the DMV. Now, don't tell us you want us to bring us to Philadelphia or Chicago or LA if you happen to watch the show. In time, we may be able to help you out with that, or you can help us out with that. But right now, we want to make sure we have all of the locations. And right now, there are about a little over 600 locations in the DMV where you can pick up the Washington Informer. If you're watching on Facebook, I meant to also mention, we got some new, we have, thank you, Chevy. We have some new newsstands. We picked up a couple of those, and so we're putting those out as well. So there's no need to find the Informer on the floor or on a counter or whatever. You know, we have our own stand. So if you are a business owner and you would like to bring us, and don't worry, we come prepared. We want to make sure that your venue, your location, your business stays the way you want it to stay. We just want a little corner if we can get it. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and hit share so your followers can see our broadcast. And if you're watching on Twitter, be sure to follow us and we will follow you back. We have a wonderful, wonderful Twitter social media person, Anthony Tillman, who does a great job on Twitter. So he will let us know if you have reached out to us and we haven't responded. We'll make sure we do so. Also on Facebook, Instagram, trying to do a little bit more on TikTok, and of course, YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, we'd like for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Washington Informer TV. If you're watching on YouTube, just go ahead and push subscribe. And same thing with all of the other social channels. We do need you to follow us. Again, as we transition, you know, there's a lot of pressure on newspapers to become digital first or digital only. We're still printing a newspaper every week. But we know that in order for us to survive, to continue to do the news coverage that we do and to serve this community, we need your support. So follow us, like us, fan us, whatever you can do. But we need to be able to count you as part of the Informer family. So we hope that you will do all of those things for us. We're going to take, as usual, our little break real quick here and get this week's news broadcast by Curtis Knowles. I'll be right back.
This is Win TV News, bringing you the news that matters. Bill Russell, one of professional basketball's greatest players and the sport's most crowned champion, has died at the age of 88. Russell, the legendary Boston Celtics center, won 11 NBA titles as a player and 2 as a player coach for the storied franchise. He died peacefully with his wife Janine by his side. Russell also won 5 NBA Most Valuable Player awards and was awarded the Medal of Freedom by President Obama in 2011. His wife commented on him saying, quote, "But for all the winning, Bill's understanding of the struggle is what illuminated his life. Bill called out injustice with an unforgiving candor that he intended would disrupt the status quo, and with a powerful example that, though never his humble intention, will forever inspire teamwork, selflessness, and thoughtful change." Ayman al-Zawahiri, who went from being a young doctor in Cairo to becoming al-Qaeda's leader, Osama bin Laden's former deputy and one of the masterminds of the terrorist attacks of September 11th, was killed in a U.S. drone strike over the weekend. He was living with his family in a Taliban-supported safe house in an upscale neighborhood in the Afghan capital at the time of the strike. Al-Zawahiri, who was 71, escaped U.S. forces when they invaded Afghanistan back in 2001, and his whereabouts were long unknown as he took over as al-Qaeda's leader. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken called his presence there a gross violation of a 2020 deal in which the Taliban promised the United States not to allow terror groups to use Afghan soil to threaten the security of America or its allies. The Prince George's County Memorial Library System's new program offered this summer seeks to allow teens 13 to 17 to learn about advocacy, conduct research, and gain public speaking and other skills to help improve their communities. The 5-week-long camps began on July 11th at the Bowie branch and will end August 15th through the 19th in Hydesville. The program offers nearly 24 books that promote advocacy, such as the gay rights movement and Rise Up, How Can You Join the Fight Against White Supremacy? Ariana Kearney commented on the program saying, quote, "In school, you don't talk about social issues that much. It's very controversial and school officials try not to offend people. It's something that we should really be discussing, and that it's nice to be in an environment where people can talk about these things." The U.S. government has offered to swap the so-called merchant of death Victor Bott for Brittany Griner and another imprisoned American, Paul Whelan. Bott, who's serving a 25-year federal prison sentence, is reportedly been at the top of Russian President Vladimir Putin's wish list. A senior administration official commented on the swap saying, quote, "We communicated a substantial offer that we believe could be successful based on a history of conversations with the Russians." The unnamed source also said that the planned trade received the backing of President Biden after being under discussion since earlier this year. U.S. officials are awaiting word from the Russian government on whether they will accept the swap.
Thank you so very much, Curtis, and bringing us up to date on some of the national news and international news that we are always trying to stay aware of. Good to see you, Charlotte Williams. You're in the house. I'm so glad to see you here. And everybody else is watching us here on Win TV. I know my mom is a good viewer as well, so hopefully she'll be tuning in and letting us know that she's on, Vera Abbott. Our guests today are Brandon White, who is the executive director of Spark the Journey, formerly known as Capital Partners for Education. And this organization is celebrating its 30 years of helping our nation's youth achieve their academic and professional goals. And he's going to talk to us about their continuing work. You know, August is National Minority Donor Awareness Month, and we will discuss organ donations with Dr. Hassan Tetteh, a U.S. Navy captain and associate professor of surgery at the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences, and an adjunct professor at Howard University College of Medicine. And last but not least, and bringing us into another exciting summer weekend, is Darryll Brooks, founder and organizer of the Summer Spirit Festival that's taking place at the Meriwether Post Pavilion in Columbia, Maryland on August 7th. They'll be joining us in just a few minutes. I did want to highlight just a couple of things that have happened in the community this week that I thought needed to be brought to your attention. The Washington Informer, as you know, partnered with Safeway stores the other day with their annual back-to-school pep rally that was held at the 14th Street store in Southeast. It was such a wonderful event with students from Payne Elementary School who were there, and maybe next week we can really show some video from that event. But most excitingly is the fact that Commanders player Santana Moss was there, and he is so dedicated to the community. He told a story about the fact that his mother was a lunchroom worker in Florida and how she managed to make sure that every child in the school where she worked was fed. And it was that demonstrating that need, that children do need food, that we need to support children, and how he observed his mother's work that made him so dedicated to young people. So the kids were all lined up and getting pictures with Santana, and the Safeway workers were out there getting pictures with him, and so was I. So it was really good to see that event. But it's not just that. It's just that what Safeway is doing, that you can, when you go and you purchase your groceries, that a percentage of that will go to Washington area schools to help in purchasing school supplies and all of the things the schools need as school begins. And can you believe it? School is going to start in just a couple of weeks. Where did the summer go? We know the summer's not gone because the heat is a reminder that we're still in the midst of summer, but 47, 46 days left in summer, and then we're going to go into fall. But yeah, kids are going back to school, backpack giveaways are being planned, school supplies for children, all of that's happening across the city. And as a partner with Safeway stores, we certainly do hope that you will support those programs. In addition, earlier this week, I believe it was on Monday or maybe on Tuesday, the Washington Wizards and the Mystics players came to the Rise Center. They're already on the campus of St. Elizabeth's. As you know, the entertainment and sports arena is the practice location for the Wizards, and it's the actual playing arena for the Mystics. But because they are always, because of the game of basketball, because they're always in Ward 8, they are not immune to the violence that's been taking place in this community. So they called a town hall meeting. I would say a little over 100 people showed up to talk about some of the things that both teams and Monumental Sports and the city plan to do to really support community organizations that are fighting crime in our community. And I would go so far as to say that it goes back to something my dad used to say a long time ago. 95% of our community is engaged in positive activities. At least 95. It's the 5% that get all the publicity. It's the 5% that are wreaking havoc in our community. And it's the 5% that we want to try to engage to bring into the fold to make sure that our communities are safe or safer. So I think it's important that the Mystics and the Wizards are out and trying to address this issue and making sure that all of those organizations, at least most of them, are getting the support they need to continue to provide programs and other resources to engage those who are involved in violent activities in our community. And they said the average age of someone who is a perpetrator of gun violence, for example, is about 30. So we're not talking about children. We're talking about young adults, but young adults that don't really have or haven't had much direction. So how do we pull them in? And we really want to talk a lot about that over the coming months, because we at the Washington Informer feel as though, one, we don't cover crime news, but we do feel as though we are part of the solution to what's going on in this community. So we were happy that, again, the Wizards and the Mystics were there. James Wright, our reporter, was there to cover the story. It's on the front page of this issue of the Washington Informer, and you will be hearing more about that as time goes on. We also had a story by Stacey Brown, who wrote about the recession. And we need to hear from you. You know, food prices have gone up, gas prices have gone up. What else? I mean, everything, housing prices are still rising. I mean, they say they're beginning to make a downturn or you know, getting steady. But how is this affecting you and your pocketbook? And so one day we might just decide to have an open mic here and bring people on to really talk about how the economy is affecting them, especially when we hear today about the unemployment or the jobs report that was issued today, which shows that unemployment is pretty steady now at about 3%. It's been that way, a little over around 3%. It's been that way for several months. While there are more jobs out there, and you've got employers that are still trying to, especially in the area of restaurant workers and hotel workers, that really lost a lot of employees over the past couple of years due to COVID, and are trying to get those folks back. And they've concluded a lot of those people are not going to come back. But there are jobs out there. And I heard another report not too long ago that there are at least 2 jobs for every one individual who is looking for a job. There are 2 jobs. Now, of course, we might want to question, in a city like DC, where the cost of living is so high, you might need those 2 jobs plus 2 more in order to survive or to live comfortably in Washington. But I'm really curious about how this is impacting our viewers and our readers. So we're going to talk about that real soon. And if you have any comments, we want to hear from you. Again, email us at news@washingtoninformer.com, or you can drop your comments in the chat, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So we're going to move on now with our program. I am really excited to bring Dr. Brandon White in with us. How are you, Dr. White?
Doing great. How are you, Denise? Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I mean, we're talking about education. We're talking about schools. We're talking about people, young people who can't afford to go to school. Tell us about Spark the Journey. What is it?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned before, some of the community might know us by our previous name, Capital Partners for Education. Spark the Journey is a mentoring organization that's been here in the district for the last 30 years, supporting low-income high school and college students on their journey to economic mobility. So all of our students are matched with an individual college-educated volunteer mentor and are provided with case management by our team of youth development specialists. We work to help get students college ready and to find high wage careers that will substantively improve their lives and will help to improve our community. Our work is really driven by the fact that fewer than 50% of young people today will earn more money than their parents. And that in a world where class sizes in schools are only growing bigger, many more students risk falling through the cracks. So we believe that providing students with an individual person who can help guide and support them, a mentor, and pairing them with others who are part of a college-going, career readiness, supportive community of their peers can really be the final difference in helping to change that.
So walk me through the process, Dr. White. I'm a young person. My mother told me she saw, I'm pretending, right? I'm pretending to be a young person, but at any rate, I'm a young person. My mother's watched Win TV. She tells me that there's this program, and I give you all a call. What happens next?
Yeah, so most of our students are recruited through our network of school partners. So we work with specific schools throughout the district where we've really been able to develop long-lasting and robust relationships. The first thing to do is you could go to our website, sparkthejourney.org, and see actually if your child's school is already one of our partners. If that's the case, you could go ahead and make a call to your guidance office to make sure that they are aware of your interest in the program. But we're actually really doing a lot to promote all of those opportunities on our own end. We're in schools pretty much from the time the beginning of the school year starts and then on into the spring. So we're constantly trying to build enthusiasm and support for the work that we're doing. If it turns out that your student attends a school that isn't already one of our partners, I think the best thing that you could do would be to ask. So to reach out to us, reach out to me or anyone on my team, or to reach out directly to your school and say, hey, I learned a little bit about this program. I really think it might be a great opportunity for me, for my student, for the rest of the students in the school, and we can see what we can make happen.
So is the program available in schools in all 8 wards? Is it just DC? Tell me about, I mean, I don't know if you want to list the schools or if there's a place where they can go and see where the schools are listed, but is it well represented across the city?
Yeah, so it's well represented across the city. Actually, at one point in our 30-year history, we have had schools throughout the DMV, but we really made a decision within the last 5 years to focus our services specifically towards students within the 8 wards of the district itself.
Wonderful.
So we have representation all over, and if people would to visit our website, they can see the full list of our, I think, 12 at this point ongoing partners, with more that we would hopefully plan to bring online in the future.
Is it both public, charter, independent schools, or just public schools?
Currently, our focus is on DCPS public schools and on charter schools on the other end. We used to have a robust independent private school partnership program. That's something that we might be open to revisiting in the future, but we've really been focused on building partnerships that we can do system-wide. So working hand in hand with DCPS or working hand in hand with OSSI to really make it easier to do sort of broader based recruitment efforts.
How did you all fare during COVID? Because kids weren't, they weren't in school and the counselors weren't there. So how did you all manage to, and I guess I want to look at maybe the number of students you all have served over the, I don't want to say 30 years, but, the number of students you served and how you were able to engage them during the time that school was out.
Definitely. I think the last 2.5 years have been challenging for us as it has been for everyone. I do think, though, that there was a way in which Capital Partners for Education, and now Spark the Journey, was really able to make a difference for the students that we were supporting during that time. One of the benefits of our programming is that because students have an individual mentor, because they have an individual case manager, they have a wider network of support. So as guidance offices, as counselors were beginning to be overwhelmed with a lot of the things that they were seeing, we were able to act as a bit of a release valve there and to step in to provide support for our students. In the early days of the pandemic, we had students who didn't have access to laptops, didn't have access to stable Wi-Fi at home for remote schooling. So we were either able to provide those things ourselves. We stepped up and actually just went ahead and made purchases on behalf of our students, or went ahead and helped families pay utility bills if we needed to, or to use the advantage of our partnerships to reach back out to our partner schools to ensure that those students were at the front of the line if there was something that they actually needed to see. One of the things that was a real transformative moment for us, though, is as a part of our program, students are able to access what we refer to as emergency funds. So if students had an unanticipated academic emergency, if they are enrolling in college and they have to pay a sudden fee, typically we would be there to help step up to meet that expense. But one of the things that we really realized over the pandemic is that the things that are the biggest challenges for our students are not academic expenses. They're the things that keep students from focusing on their academics. So we were able to more than increase our budget for emergency funds by 6 times over the course of the pandemic, and to help families with the cost of healthcare, to help families meet rent if we needed to help students, and in some cases even just like to purchase the desk that they were going to need to be able to be effective in remote schooling.
Wow, Dr. White, this is amazing, and you've answered a question, but also raised another question. I know that when you're talking about school counselors and resources that are available in schools, they sometimes leave a little bit to be desired. You have the student who's more, assertive, that will go to the counselor, find out what resources are available, blah, blah, blah. But the majority of students aren't like that. And so the role of mentors sounds like it's exceedingly crucial for the success of this program. So talk about that, and how do you get mentors? Do you need mentors? Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So our mentors come to us from all sorts of different corners in the community because we built up a 30-year reputation as being a great resource for volunteers who want to engage in sort of targeted mentoring. They know when a mentor comes to us that they will be supporting a student with a specific subset of goals, but that they're going to have sort of the flexibility to figure out their commitment on their own time along with their student. So many of our best mentors come to us actually through word of mouth or through people who've been through our program before and have had positive experiences. Some subset of our mentors are actually alumni. Some of them come to us from our network of corporate partners. Many come to us from our website. So if there are folks in your community who are interested in finding a sort of interesting way of giving back, I would urge them to click on the link, find out more about us, but also then click on the link that will help you figure out more about how you could get involved too.
Do you need mentors now?
We certainly do. So to one of your prior questions, in our entire organization's history, we have served about 950 total students.
Wow.
Along with this rebrand, we've been rolling out a new updated strategic plan. And our goal is to actually serve another 780 additional students over the next 3 years. So by the time we get to the end of this coming strategic plan, we will be serving more students than we've served in our entire history. Going along with that, we are setting an ambitious target for ourselves of bringing on board another 1,000 volunteers over the next 3 years. So some of that starts today.
Wonderful. I mean, I think it's excellent because it's so crucial that these young people need educational advocates, to look out for them, someone they can trust and discuss some of their needs and can help them to get those needs met. This is amazing. We haven't put the link up, but I'll make sure we do that so that people who are interested in volunteering will reach out like right away. Oh, you did put that up before. Spark the Journey. Tell me, why did you change the name from Capital Partners for Education to Spark the Journey? What was the motivation for doing that?
Well, I think when a lot of people heard our original name, Capital Partners for Education, I think they tended to think that maybe we were a bank, or that maybe we were an investment firm of some sort, or that like money in some way, shape, or form was on the line. One thing that I should say is that all of the services that we provide are absolutely free. We're a nonprofit organization. We're supported philanthropically and by the DC government. So there's no cost associated with what we're doing. So Capital Partners for Education maybe sent a little bit of the wrong signal. We believe that the name Spark the Journey, though, is really something that positions us as a inspiration, as a catalyst that will help young people throughout their lives. And it's also something that we really see our audience also being able to engage with. We wanted to choose a name that was really inclusive and that invited other people to think of themselves as being the spark that would help to spark change and social impact, and that would really help to move the mission forward.
You talked about how you're funded, and because it sounds like you provide a whole lot of resources, financial resources included. And so you want to give us a little background on how that happens, or, is it community funded, or are you appealing for support from the community as well?
Yeah, so we are in fact community funded. So a large share of our support just comes from individual donations, people coming to our website, clicking the donate link that's at the top right-hand corner. Also comes to us from local area foundations who've been helping to support and steward our work for a considerable period of time. And then only actually within the last couple of years have we been able to develop more deliberate partnerships with the DC government. So we're currently the beneficiaries of a grant put out by the Office of the State Superintendent for Education called College Rising. So we're providing mentors to students through that program and stretching beyond our network of partner schools to also support students who are engaged in OSSE's dual enrollment program. So students who are enrolled in high school and in college simultaneously.
So, as publisher of a newspaper, but a journalist first, I always love stories. And I don't know if you could maybe share with us a success story. How do you measure success? And is there sort of a story that you could tell us about, the impact you may have had? We don't have the students here, but, a student or some students, the impact of this program on their lives.
Yeah, you should have the students back, actually. They could speak directly to their experience, too.
That's what I'd like to do. Yeah, we'll do that. That's a commitment.
But the success stories that we have are, over the last 30 years are almost too numerous to be listed easily. One of the things that we've tended to see with our students who are the most successful is that actually their journey is not always a linear one. So we traditionally had set success for ourselves as saying, we want students to enroll in college immediately after their high school graduation. We want students to be in and out within 4 years or within 6 years. But sometimes that journey is a little bit rocky. And that's also part of the thing that was reflected in our rebrand. We wanted to be sensitive to the fact that students go through different arcs and go through different trajectories. So I would say some of our greatest successes, students who have maybe interrupted their studies for a year and then have reconnected with their mentor, have been remotivated, have been re-engaged to re-enroll. We've had, I think, probably the sharpest success stories are students who have been through our program who, to your point earlier, Denise, have learned a little bit about speaking up for themselves and seeking out resources. So we've actually tapped into the fact that we have a network of supporters and a network that might actually be the thing that is instrumental in helping them get jobs. So I've worked with students who then asked if they could reach out to board members to see if they could find an opportunity for them. And some students have been able to turn those things into internships, turn those things into full-time jobs. And that's really the sort of things that we would like to be doing for hundreds more students across the district.
Yeah, well, let's make a date and and get with Chevry and see if we can get a couple of your students on, because of course they're the greatest advocates to show how successful the program has been and what it's meant in their lives. And I love, to give them a voice. So we'll follow up, set something up, and get you back again. And because we want to see this be successful for, 30 years, that's nothing to sneeze at, right?
Not at all.
So thank you so much, Dr. White, for being with us today and for sharing this great information. We already had one of our viewers say she's definitely going to share it. So we're going to keep promoting this so that more of our students will see that there is a path for success with the help of Spark the Journey. So thank you very much for being with us. Fantastic. That's so great to hear. Thank you so much again, Denise. All right. Talk to you soon. Take care. All right. That is wonderful. I mean, this is what it's all about. It's good news, trying to get this information out so our kids, we can stop saying, we don't have this, we don't have that, we can't do this, we can't do that. Let's, take advantage of what the resources are in our community. And sometimes we have to take that extra step to get the word out. And of course, it's like pulling folks in to say, come on, you can do this, you can do this. So and that's the same as it relates to our next guest, Dr. Hassan Tetteh, who's going to talk to us about, talking about giving. It's not only time, but resources, but it's even us, our own, I hate to put it like that way, Dr. Tetteh, but our own body parts,
Yeah,
the gift of life. Let's
the
put it that
gift
way.
of
The
life.
gift of life.
Yeah.
Welcome to Win TV. How are you?
Thank you, Denise. Thank you. That is absolutely the best way to put it. It's the gift of life.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. I mean, here we have had Dr. Clive Callender on the show in the past. We understand the need. Well, maybe we don't really understand the need for organ donations, and this is, I think, National Organ Donation Month. And what a good time it is to really let folks know that they can even put it on their driver's license, that they want to donate in case of. You use the language because I'm about to screw it up.
Well, it's you evoked a mentor and someone who's been very meaningful in my life and career, Dr. Callender. So his work has definitely been foundational in sort of bringing awareness to this month and also the need, as you said, the great need for a gift of life. So this is the month of National Minority Organ Donor Awareness Month in August. And the need is great. Right now, Denise, there are over 100,000 individuals that are on a waiting list throughout our country waiting for an organ. Most commonly, it's for a kidney because of end-stage renal disease, which has, unfortunately caused the individual to require and need dialysis. And without, a new organ, they have many years of dialysis and lots of complications and potential for, not surviving very long. So the need is great. There are many people on the waiting list, as I mentioned, and unfortunately and regrettably, a large number, more than half of those individuals, are disproportionately minorities, and even more so African Americans. And that reason is multifactorial. There's always disparity of care among African Americans for numerous reasons. Access to care, not having the right referrals sort of in place, and also a lot of fear from African Americans to even go to the doctor at all, with good reason. I mean, there's definitely a lot of history for why that stigma is there. But all those things contribute to sort of this disparity of care, and also more African Americans requiring or needing, this type of therapy, a life-saving therapy, which is organ donation. And then on the other side, you have, the lack of individuals that are even aware that that's even an option for them. When an organ donor becomes sort of declared, it's usually a process of a number of things. But one of those things is the decision of that individual to make the decision to give the gift of life. And if that decision has never been made, it's never been communicated with the family, then that could be, in fact, a missed opportunity to, have an individual make this declaration to provide a gift of life when, the time comes.
So you yourself are a surgeon.
Correct.
And actually do
transplantation.
Right. Talk a little bit about, I mean, how do you have that conversation with the family to let them know, what their options are?
Sure. Very good question. And, that conversation, I think, begins, at many stages. One of the most difficult and challenging times, of course, is to have it when there's, an actual tragedy, sort of confronting or facing the family and individual. So, programs like yours are certainly good because they can help generate that discussion well before the time comes. In my work, I'm a thoracic surgeon, and so my specialty has been over the number of years, heart and lung transplantation. That's just what I was exposed to sort of over my career. And it for me, it was very fulfilling to be involved in this kind of surgery and this kind of medical specialty, because I could see the sort of way that organ donation helps individuals really transform their lives and save lives. And I know with each one of these cases, we are contributing to saving a life and making a big difference. And it even goes beyond just the recipient. Typically people that become organ donors because of a declaration of brain death, a lot of times those are tragic events, unexpected events. Every story is just worse than the last story. And when people are facing that challenge, that crisis, this great trauma, and the families are sort of trying to make meaning of what happened, I think organ donation provides many families a lot of grace and peace to know that the loved ones passing was not in vain, and that there was actually something good that came of it. And if the donor is appropriate and the conditions are right, one donor can save up to 8 lives, with the gift of life, with the different organs. And I think I've seen that benefit and that sort of great miracle on both sides of the equation. That getting letters from families that had a loved one pass away and become an organ donor, and they're really grateful for the fact that their loved one is now sort of living on in another person. And then of course the satisfaction and the great joy of bringing a new organ to someone who's desperately ill and without that organ would probably die. Especially in my case with heart and lungs, our patients are very, very sick.
Yeah.
And they don't really have a lot of options.
Since COVID, I think we've been hearing that more people are opting to be cremated, at death. Have you seen with that? I mean, now everything is disposed of, but have you seen more, or I know that's why you're here, to try to help more people or encourage more people to donate, but has that increased with the number of people who are opting now for cremations?
Well, that's a very good question. The decision, and this would be good for your viewers to know, the decision to be an organ donor does not necessarily impact, one's final arrangements, if you will. So if you were to be cremated or buried, the funeral homes are sort of very well experienced with dealing with patients that will become organ donors. So in that sense, there really is nothing that changes much. Over the course of the pandemic, what we have seen, though, is an increased, need potentially for several individuals that are now more susceptible, if you will, for organ donation or need for organ donation. In particular, the lungs. There have been some very high-profile cases over the course of the pandemic that demonstrate that those that suffer from long COVID or the complications, the respiratory complications of COVID, are facing situations where their lungs are so damaged that over time it leads to what we would describe as end-stage lung disease, and they have required a transplantation. So that's been very challenging from our standpoint to see something like that, because most of the people that need lung transplantations, their disease and course of disease has sort of progressed over time, but COVID's only been with us just for a short time, and already people are requiring lung transplantations. Fortunately, the number is not high, but it is something that gives a lot of us pause in the sort of community to just think about. And then, of course, now we're testing all of our donors for COVID to make sure that that's not transmitted to the recipient, because when the recipient gets a new organ, they do have to take medications that suppress their immune system so that they won't have any rejections.
You mentioned that about some concerns people have with visiting doctors and some of the history in our community. And there's a lot of, I don't know what you call it, fallacies maybe that go on, or beliefs that people have about organs being involuntarily removed.
Right.
That white people may get Black people's organs more readily than folks within their own community, or that people are out there, organizations are selling organs. I mean, what could you say to give folks comfort that, this to ignore those things if we should,
Yeah.
and that there's a real process that one must go through in order to have their organs donated
Yeah, Denise, that's a great
in the
question.
will.
I think that's an excellent question, Denise. And I think that the last word that you use is really the answer to the question that would hopefully give some relief and maybe some peace of mind to individuals that do have valid concerns, obviously for historical reasons, things that they've heard, things that they've read. There is a process, and that process is very well governed. It's strict. It has it has a great infusion of ethics and high standards to it. In this country, I know certainly that's not the case everywhere else in the world, but here in America, there is a very strict process for that. One of the things that was never lost on me throughout my career in medicine is that transplant medicine, transplant surgery, sort of the whole science around transplantation, and particularly how we determine who becomes an organ donor and then who becomes an organ recipient, is probably one of the purest ways of practicing medicine, because everyone's involved. It's not just one single doctor. Typically when we're listing patients on a list, especially for hearts and lungs, for consideration to become an organ recipient, they have to meet all the medical criteria, but we have an evaluation that entails a host of people. There are pharmacists involved, there's social workers, there are nurses. We also, evaluate the family condition with the patient to make sure they have the support system in place. And as far as like people that are worried about, what will happen to their loved one if they say, "Oh, I want to be an organ donor," does that mean when I get to the hospital they're not going to take care of me because they're going to say I'm an organ donor? That doesn't happen. That really seldom enters into the equation, and much of that discussion happens well after anyone comes into the hospital. So I think people should be rest assured that's not that's not how it works. We treat patients that come into the hospital, very much like we treat all patients, regardless of their organ donation status. And that conversation happens much later as the patient sort of comes in and gets evaluated and determined what exactly is the condition that we're treating and taking care of and facing.
But Dr. Tetteh, I mean, we have that question on that driver's license, and many have including myself, have put yes there.
Yes.
We agree to be an organ donor. Was that just to answer a question, or who looks at that? Who determines if there's no loved one around? And you need that heart like right away. You don't have time for somebody to fly across country to sign a document, right? How does that work? How does that work?
And there's a process in place, and so it doesn't happen like someone just rolls in and they have to fulfill a criteria, and here in the States and in our country that criteria is pretty strict. It's a brain death determination, for an individual to become declared a brain an organ donor, and that has to typically, depending on the state, have to be qualified, validated through a number of studies and tests. And the determination to, declare one brain dead is a pretty, rigorous standard that we all adhere to. And that is one of the criteria for at least brain death donors to sort of satisfy. And so when you're coming into the hospital for whatever the issue is, a trauma, some unfortunate accident or something like that, that determination of brain death is not something that's made right on the scene. It's something that happens well after the initial care is rendered to that patient and individual. And then when that does happen, the brain death determination, that conversation with the family and of course the designation of what the wishes were for the patient also comes into consideration. So yes, at that point, yes, things will come into play. But right away, it doesn't happen like that. It's really a process. I think so. Okay. The more people learn about that, I think that they will understand. And I think that one of the things that's very helpful for individuals to try to learn more about what their decision should be is to talk with loved ones and family, and also to visit websites that have a lot of good information and correct information about how important designating yourself as a donor can be in terms of reconciling a great loss, particularly a tragic one, and also what the reward will be when that your passing or your loved one's passing has gone on to help someone in need and save a life.
Well, I'm hoping that we can put something up. I think we have something, Chevy, where people, if they want to learn more information about organ donation. I can personally say I've had individuals in my family who have been recipients
Right.
of, like you said, a kidney transplant, and is living a pretty okay life. Everything seems to be working out fine. And as it relates to me, I have said, take it all. Now, I plan to be here, at least till, folks, we just saw somebody who celebrated their 108th birthday. I plan to be around that long, but I know there's organs, skin is an organ, eyes, all of that, right,
Right.
are
Yes,
available
correct. So
for
yeah,
me.
beyond organs, there's tissue transplant as well that go on to help serve a lot of individuals in need. Absolutely.
Is there a point when your stuff is just too old that it's no longer useful?
Not necessarily, no.
Good. Okay.
No.
Just wanted to know because I can take that yes off my driver's license because I'm going to be here. But I think it is important for people to make that decision, to have that conversation. And is there a good time to have that conversation with family members? I
Yeah,
know when you're putting your will together, your life
right.
insurance, whatever. Is it a good
Yeah,
time?
that's a good question. I think there's it's sort of like the a proverb of when is the right time to plant a tree? Yesterday. So the right time to have that conversation is yesterday. Most people will defer those kinds of conversations. They're very difficult. And we as a family had one of those conversations one time during a Thanksgiving celebration, and I would tell you it turned
As
into
you're carving up a turkey, right?
I know it turned into quite the experience, but it is an important conversation to have with your family and your loved ones because it's very challenging to have that at the time when there is a tragedy in place,
Right,
but if you've
right.
had that conversation beforehand, I think that it makes the family's decision a lot easier because they can respect the wishes of the individual that now is facing a tragedy.
Well, we can be grateful that there are doctors like you who can can use this gift of life and help others to have prolonged life, even though you've suffered a tragedy. So we're very thankful that you were here to have this conversation with us today, and we hope that folks will follow through, and we will have what we need to save lives going forward. So, Dr. Tetteh, thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing awareness to National Minority Donor Awareness Month, and
Mhm.
your viewers and listeners can go to registerme.org to get more information. And there are a number of websites and lots of information online right now to sort of highlight and bring awareness to the month. And donatelife.net is also a great resource as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us, and keep doing what you do.
Thank you.
Precious.
Thank you.
All righty. Okay, doke. Thank you. So yeah, we hope to live long, fruitful lives and to enjoy those lives as we continue to hopefully take care of ourselves and do all the preventive things we need to do to make sure that we have a great quality of life. And a great quality of life also includes, having some fun, bringing some joy. And that's why I'm so excited to have Darryll Brooks with us now who can talk about how we can have a joyful weekend on August the 7th with the Summer Spirit Festival. Darryll, thank you so much for being with us. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I enjoyed the program thus far because there's been a lot of information that's been passed around.
Well,
It's
that's
very
great. Well,
thank
it's your turn now.
the Summer Spirit
And
Festival.
yeah, yeah. So this is it sounds like okay, so it's August the 7th. That's Sunday, right?
Yes,
At
yes.
the Meriwether Post Pavilion. Okay. Give us the details.
Sunday, August 7th at Meriwether Post Pavilion. I see you have on the screen the artists that participating this year, and I'm very happy to the return of Erica Badu, who's an extremely talented artist. Anthony Hamilton, Redman, Method Man, Marsha Ambrosius, our local junkyard band. I call them local only because they're from DC, but outside of DC, they are national artists. And Jay Brown, we're introducing a new artist named Jay Brown. We also have the Busy Bee Marketplace, where we have over maybe 90 artisans that'll have a marketplace right there on the grounds. It's
Oh,
been very
that's great.
it's been pioneered and really cultivated by Juanita Britton, but Busy Bee at the gallery over in Southeast. But we're very happy about it. I guess it's how do you say, it's a transition of what we did back in the 70s with Human Kindness Day and stuff we did in Anacostia Park, and when we were funded by the government, and we went private and had our own corporation, we basically took that same concept of art, education, and music and entertainment, and then transitioned into the Summer Spirit Festival. So our, this is our 50th year of being in business together, myself, Carol,
Wow.
myself, and Gerald. So we're very happy, and we cultivated, curated this festival back in '08, which was Summer Spirit, and it's been doing very good. And this is our 15th year. I'm very excited about it. There's tickets available. The artists are excited. Yes, you asked me earlier. Erica Badu did design that poster especially for me, and because she's been on at this particular festival maybe about her fourth, maybe about her fifth or sixth time over the last 15 years. Because we basically try to bring in people who raise the conscious, great entertainer, love the arts, and are good entertainers. And it ends up being like a family reunion for a lot because it's one of the few homegrown festivals that came out of the DC area where big corporation was involved or the influences. This was influenced by people here in our city that have been involved in our city with artisans that are part of our city, and I'm very excited about it. I'm just excited. What can I tell you? And I really
That's one.
for you guys support because you guys have supported our festivals since the beginning.
Oh yeah, what you were just saying a few minutes ago there, we tell younger folks sometimes, back in the day we used to do this and we used to do that, and I mean this folklore about the times of the past, but this is past, present, and future. You all have, like you said, 50 years of doing this and entertaining, the DC community, and just keeping it alive generation after generation is just really commendable, and I'm glad that you all have been able to keep it going. Um, I mean, you didn't have. I mean, we had COVID, right? We had 2 years where the Spirit Festival, as an in-person event, could not take place. How did you all get through that?
Biting our nails, screaming, scratching, going inward because when COVID came, we had about 7 shows on sale between DC, Baltimore, North Carolina, New York, and all that stopped. And some of them were already sold out. So when everything stops, promoters can't make any money, artists can't make any money, venues can't make any money. So all that went away. Just so happens we had little savings and had little projects we did. One of the particular projects I was doing personally was I was buying talent for conventions doing it over the internet. So they were having virtual conferences where everybody would have laptops, maybe 2,000 people, 1,500 people. And I booked different acts, like Will Downing or Boys to Men for different conventions that could not have the conventions in like hotels or convention centers, but they had to do this. They still had it on their calendar and they brought in their talent. So we did those kinds of things. And then also we got a grant when the government put out that PPP grant. We ended up getting a grant from that, and that kind of helped us a little bit. But that was it. Basically, and what's really crazy about this business, especially entertainment business and most businesses, I presume, when you stop something, everything that was on the books still have to go through. And then new stuff that you forecast for that future has to still be in line to come through. So venues had backlog of artists and talent and shows and circuses and plays and what have you. So it was a big fight for talent. So you had to fight for the talent for your projected year of 2022 over a year ago. And believe me, it was
Wow.
a scramble. And as you know, today's prices ain't yesterday's prices. So everything kind of got jacked up because it became a big demand. And a lot of minority companies ended up having to turn away or shut down. As you know, a lot of businesses have shut down. And thank God we've been able to survive to continue and start putting our programs back into place. And we have a lot of good partners across country since we've been doing it so long that we've had shows in other markets as well as here that have also crept us back along once the COVID scenario had kind of lightened up. And we're very conscious about that. At our concert, we'll have a COVID protocol, And also we're urging people to bring their sanitize, hand sanitizer, etc., and be careful of how you move and what you touch, etc., and wear your mask, as is appropriate.
I read just yesterday about a big festival that was supposed to take place, I think, in a couple of weeks in Atlanta, and they shut it down because of the concern about. Well, they didn't shut it, but the organizers decided to cancel it because of some concerns about violence. And that's a very real issue in today in public events. And I'm wondering, have you? I hate to bring that up, but how are you all managing, to make sure that everybody is safe?
Well, I think that the thing that you might recognize in anybody in the immediate area, we've never had that type of problem.
Hmm.
We've been community based. Our clientele is more mature now, and that we deal with. So our demo does not have the I'm running around and trying to do something ridiculous. As you said earlier, that 2 or 3 or 5% is not really feel comfortable in our area because there's a lot of parents, grandparents, adults in the audience, etc. And it's basically protocol. You come in, they check you, etc. to some extent, and let you come in. And it's generally has been a super affair. That's the best I can say on that.
So the only other threat I can think of is rain. What happens?
Rain or shine,
rain or shine? Okay.
It drizzled on us in the past, and it basically cools it off. It drops the temperature about 7 degrees, and you keep on going.
Wonderful.
Meriwether has a pavilion, and people are more concerned mostly about the sun because once the sun comes down, the whole atmosphere changes. You know what I mean? And we're in the woods over there in Columbia, Maryland. So it's a fairly, to be honest, they've renovated it a great deal. So there are a lot of little places where you can relax and be comfortable. And unless a torrential storm pops up and washes us all away, I think we'll have a great time. And I looked at the forecast; it's very light, and as you know, we have the weather. That weather forecast that they give us covers 100-mile area. And
right, exactly.
Northeast doesn't happen in Northwest. What happens in Northwest doesn't happen in Northeast. So
or Maryland or Virginia. Right, right. So let me just ask in closing though, for people who haven't been to the Spirit Fest, haven't been to Meriwether Post, how do you come and have a good time? I mean, I don't know if you allow people to bring coolers or anything like that inside. I mean, do you bring a blanket?
Let them bring chairs. There's certain items. You can go on Meriwether's website and see the do's and don'ts of what they allow and what they don't allow. But obviously, people can bring water. There's chairs. Some people come with little chairs with hoodies on them, and some people come with little canopies and stuff like that. Obviously, the parking is all around the venue. I think if you go through their website, they'll tell you you can reserve a parking space in certain parking lots. So those things are available. So I advise folks, if you haven't been there before, go to Meriwether's website, and you'll see the different criteria, things you need to be concerned about, and what the do's and don'ts. Think of the Summer Spirit Festival as a family reunion, class reunion of all your friends and neighbors in the immediate area, because it's like a homecoming. I was talking to guys yesterday. They said, "Man, I can't wait to see this. I can't wait to see that." You know what I mean? And what's really funny, I'm just saying it funny because it came to my mind. We can always tell new people come to the Summer Spirit Festival, especially ladies, because if they come out there with high heels on and looking at stuff, I'm like, okay, they brand new, because you can't walk on grass in high heels like that. That's
what I'm talking about. Telling folks how to come, be comfortable, and have a good time.
I'll say the following: their hair game, their nail game, their pedicure game is tight, and guys are looking extra sharp. I mean, it's a good presentation, and the music sets a real nice atmosphere for socializing, and it's been a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I talked to somebody the other day and said, she's bringing her blanket. She knows she wants to be on the lawn. She's already kind of figured out where she's going to be and where she wants folks to meet her.
Yeah, it's definitely a plan. They come out in droves, and they come out in their own crew and their own cliques, so you can always see what's going on. It's, as I say, it's a family reunion, a homecoming, all in one, and the atmosphere is excellent. The sound is excellent. The artisans are excellent. The marketplace is incredible. You just said you just came from Africa. We got a lot of Africans who have artwork that'll be at that festival. That's incredible. So
Wow, that's fantastic. And I think lastly, I keep saying finally, but lastly, I mean, I think it's great that you've had Erykah Badu to come several times. What is it that attracts her to this? That you've been able to keep her appearing, and folks are really looking forward to seeing all the acts, but especially her.
well,
Why is she so dedicated to this?
I'll say the following. I've been touring Erykah since 2000. I was her national tour promoter for
Okay.
going on about 15 years. And I have a relationship with her. So I'll talk to the agent, but I'll call Erykah. Can you do my show? Yes, Mr. Brooks, I'll be there. Tell me what you want me to do. And that's what it's been. It's been a relationship. And to be honest, it's been that relationship because before big corporations found out that Black folks had a lot of money, disposable income, there were small companies like myself, Dimensions Unlimited, some other companies around this country that were doing a lot of the majority of the Black shows. Well, that era has been decimated because you have the Wolf Traps, you got the Live Nations, you got the IP, you got everybody, lottie dottie, everybody now grabbing these artists. And as I told you before, where I could buy an act for X number of dollars, these big corporations come in and put the price up to here and change the whole landscape where a lot of smaller companies can't participate on that level. And it's changed it. So, I'm fighting for what I do. And if it wasn't for the relationship I've had after 50-year history, believe me, I'd be, donating my organs or something. I'm giving blood because it's hard out here.
I know. Well, I'm glad that you all are still out here. I'm glad that you're, the Summer Spirit Festival is alive and well, that you're going to have a great concert this weekend. And I ask everybody, go on out there and enjoy it. Have a great time. Check out. We'll be out there as well. So looking forward to having a wonderful time. And Darryll, thank you so much for what you all do.
Time to have a company.
It is. It is.
And as I said, 15 years of this particular festival being homegrown is something to salute. I'm glad the community has embraced us as well as they have over the years.
Well, no, this is your home too, Win TV. So feel free to join us anytime. Let us know what you all what else you all are up to. And I know that there's more to come now that we're getting COVID sort of out the door. Looking forward to what's coming next. So thanks a lot for joining us.
I appreciate you, and tell Sure Shot I say hello.
Will do. All righty. Thanks, Darryll. All right. So, you can help kids with their education. You can plan, your either your donation, your organ donation. Make sure you get all that worked out with your family, and then put all that aside for a moment and go out to the Summer Spirit Fest and have a wonderful time with the folks that are going to have, it all laid out for you. I want to hear about I want to see you all posting pictures and Instagram and Twitter, and just talking about the great time that you're having out there. We need that right now. We need a good time. So I thank Darryll Brooks and all the folks there for doing that. And I want to thank you for joining us today. I've enjoyed the show, enjoyed talking to you, look forward to hearing from you. And don't forget, pick up a copy of the Washington Informer. All right, we'll see you this time next week. Until then, stay safe. Goodbye.